aid disbursed by for the economy, planning and regional development. Alamin Osman May is going to be telling us more on that in this newscast. We shall be right back with the details. Stay with us. Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you so much for joining us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television. Let's begin right here with the difficulties faced by commuters in the Douala Free Subdivision, precisely in the east entrance into the country's economic capital. Traveling into and out of the city of Douala has become a nightmare. Commuters have been going through thick and thin. That was since a section of the National Road number 3 split around Yassa. Babla Jonathan in the following report is going to be painting the situation on the Ndokoti Shatonyala Yassa stretch of road in the Douala Free Subdivision. His report.
The situation is quite complicated here on this stretch of road linking the Ndokoti roundabout and Nyala Chateau, and of course the stretch of road continuing right up to Yassa. Vehicles are lined up in a long line like this, as the one that you're seeing behind me. They have been there for several hours, and it takes just a long period of time to move just an inch because of the deplorable situation. And this is of course provoked by the collapse of a portion of National Highway number 3 linking the country's two major cities, the economic capital Douala and the political capital Yaoundé. Many of the vehicles lined up here are heavy duty trucks loaded with goods.
I'm from the poor. I left at 6:30. I'm still on the road.
The bad state of the road is yet another problem that further complicates the situation here. As you can see right behind me, the potholes that are on this road are making circulation much more complicated for heavy-duty trucks as well as motorbikes that are using this stretch of the road linking the Ndokoti roundabout and Shatonyala, and of course heading towards Yassa to link up with National Highway number 3 linking Douala and Yaoundé. As you can see, the potholes are very large and circulation here has become very difficult and even impossible. That's why some vehicles, like notably heavy duty trucks, are simply stationed here, and they have been here for several hours.
The road is not good. Potholes are there, many potholes. You are seeing yourself, many potholes are there, so we are disturbed, don't know what to do.
Traveling from Douala to other parts of the country has become practically a nightmare because of the deplorable situation. Travelers spend several hours from the agency to get out of the town. Many of them, like these ones that you're seeing, have been in the vehicle since 5 a.m. for some since 8 a.m. and they are still in the city of Douala after close to 8 hours. They are still in the vehicle and yet to get out of the town of Douala.
Around 5 a.m. We started the agents. Just now we are in Douala around 2 p.m. That's very, very difficult for us to travel from Douala to Marwa in this difficult.
Vehicles coming from the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, as you can see behind me, are compelled to go through the other stretch of road leading to Pekadous to get to the central town of the country's economic capital, Douala. And vehicles leaving from the central town of Douala go through Pekadous to move through to this part of the road. As you can see, some of the vehicles, they are coming from Pekadous and they are heading to the nation's political capital, Yaoundé.
That is Babla Jonathan there painting the picture or the ordeals of inhabitants of the economic capital, Douala, those leaving the nation's capital to the city of Douala. And it should be noted that some travel agencies located in Douche Municipal that are plying the Douala-Yaoundé highway are now loading and offloading passengers in Yassa, that is the area where the route actually split. Yesterday, or about 48 hours ago, the Minister of Public Works South said that the repair works on the temporary road might be due tomorrow, Saturday, and that the entire project on the main route will be completed possibly by September 2018. On to something else, Limbe residents who are in the southwest region of Cameroon are still to come to terms with the death of at least 5 persons following Tuesday's mudslide and floods in the city. Houses are still inundated, and those whose valuables were soiled by the water evaluated the impact of this disaster. They were speaking to our reporter, Davis Maimo. He paints the picture in the following story.
After 3 days of heavy rains with flood, mud flow and landslide that took away some lives in Limbe, the people of Limbe, especially neighborhood hit by the flood, mud flow and landslide, are gradually putting things together again. With a clear weather and a little sunshine this Friday, the 27th of July, from cloth, mattresses, chairs and what have you, all taken outside, speak for itself. The damages the 3 days heavy rains have meted on the people, not to mention the life lost in the landslide.
Today, small sun has shined and we have struggled to wash plates and that pot. Everything has gone in water, everything is wet. Look at those chairs, water has carried everything and we are struggling to sun them now.
With fingers crossed for the rains not to continue as heavy as in the past days, for fear of flood and probably another landslide due to the porous nature of the soil in Limbe.
You can see all the chairs are there wet. We even sleep now on top table.
It is now clear that 5 persons died at the Bonjo landslide, as 2 corpses that were retrieved from the ground yesterday, being that of a 3-year-old and a 13-year-old child respectively, all from one family, were immediately buried as the corpses were in a state of decomposition.
Yesterday now for the number 3 days, now we can succeed now for remove the picking them for inside the mud. Corpses they will don't get now 5 corpses don't get now we die. So there is no different corpses. Today we will talk say don't be also place or another 5 will be way and the victim and that way they die. That very accident.
Everything being equal, the powers that be have a huge task in finding lasting solution to the flooding and landslide in Limbe.
And the Senior Associate for African Regional Director at the National Democratic Institute for International Affairs, Dr. Christopher Fomonyo, has categorically stated that organizing election in Cameroon with the current socio-political unrest in the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon is more of a provocation than a necessity. The International Election Observer is, however, skeptical of a possible hitch-free election in the 2 Anglophone regions of Cameroon and across the national territory, and has urged the head of state to use his constitutional powers to seek solutions to the current Anglophone crisis. Dr. Christopher Fomonyo was speaking to Equinoxe Television's Babla Jonathan. Let's hear him.
I have seen many African countries where elections poorly conducted have exacerbated existing crises. I've also seen countries in which elections well organized in a better political environment have helped to promote peace and stability. And I'm really worried that in our case we've taken the first option. I don't want to be a prophet of doom, but I'm skeptical that we will be able to pull off peaceful, meaningful polls in just 8 weeks' time.
Especially in the 2 crisis-stricken northwest and southwest regions?
Well, you know, I also believe in the rule of law and in the respect of the Constitution. But I also know that when it was time to tinker with the Constitution to eliminate term limits, that was done very easily. I also know that when it was time to tinker with the electoral law to shrink political space and say that people cannot campaign or people cannot be candidates except they're nominated by parties that have elected officials, which led to the shrinking of political space, that was done. So when there is a national crisis and you appeal to the population on the basis of a crisis that everybody knows we're facing, people would come along. After 2011, there was a lot more serious thinking given to the elections that will come up in 2011. I have to be very honest and say there was a lot of thinking, there was a lot of groundwork that was done. But when this crisis broke, the current Anglophone crisis broke in 2016, and seeing the way in which this crisis has been managed, seeing the lives that have been lost, knowing that hundreds of innocent civilians have been killed, over 110 servicemen and women have lost their lives. We have people now living in forests. We have old people sick and dying in forests that nobody's even accounting for because nobody has the statistics. We have close to 200,000 internally displaced Cameroonians. We have over 40,000 refugees. I, in good conscience, cannot see myself walking over the corpse of these dead people to go around canvassing for elections. My priority for the past 2 years, there is not a day that goes by without a life being lost. There is not a day that goes by without a horrible story being written about Cameroon in the international media. There is not a month that goes by without some international entity issuing a report that tells the truth, but that blackens completely the reputation of this country. If that's what they prefer, then they can stay talking to themselves. But you sit down around the table with people who disagree with you, with people who have different viewpoints, and let's look at how this crisis has evolved.
That is Christopher Fomunyon there speaking to our reporter Babla Jonathan. It was within the context of the Inside. We are going to be having an exclusive interview of the International Election Observer. That's going to be during the Sunday's edition of the Inside on Equinoxe television as from 6 p.m. local time. Meantime, the mayor of Sangmenima in the south region of Cameroon is now a free man after his brief appearance at the Special Criminal Court this Friday. Andre Noel Essian was for the second time heard by judges at the Special Criminal Court after he spent the night in the court cell. That was yesterday. He appeared at the SCC. That was in 2016. It should be noted, but was immediately vindicated. It is not known whether it is related to managerial lapses. On to something else. The mayor and councillors of Njombe Penja Council in the Mongo division of the littoral region of Cameroon have been asked to use the additional euro on their mandate to fulfill their promises or the promises that they made to their various electors. The call was met by the divisional officer for Njombe Penja during a council session which took place recently. Details with Sumanji Kangebril.
Njombe Penja is a locality situated in the Mongo division of the littoral region. The inhabitants here lack good potable drinking water for some time now, forcing them to either queue up at borehole spots or fetch from unsafe streams. And also, the zone suffer from intermittent cut of electricity supply, forcing many to change to solar energy.
Problem for water because water said no day, and I will ask the problem for lat. Lat is no day. Don't be paying no get lat. You no get lat. Look all photo for all sides. You don't fall.
It is on this backdrop that councillors of the Njombe Penja met to evaluate work done so far. In the absence of the senior divisional officer, it was the divisional officer, Kupmi Njoya Aziz, who supervised the session that saw 19 out of the 29 councillors voting the management and administrative accounts of the council. For the current year running, the Njombe Penja Council got as revenue over 484 million, representing a 61.67%, and spent over 470 million, giving a percentage of 59.84%. Nkupmi Njoya Aziz used the occasion to advise the mayor, Kahak Jean-Pierre, to satisfy his people as he has been added an additional year. Apart from the water and electricity problems, the officials congratulated the mayor and councillors for the work done on some access roads into the town.
And Cameroon has signed a 6.5 billion deal with the European Union, as we announced in the headlines, to boost what government officials have called the competitive power of the country in the international market. The engagement would also enforce the capacity of actors in the private sector in Cameroon, and for this to be a possibility, there is need for the public and private sectors to work together. In the meeting that was attended by the head of the European Union in Cameroon, Alamin Ousmane May, the Minister for the Economy, Planning and Regional Development, is going to be expatiating on the importance of the deal that was signed with the European Union. Let's hear him in the following excerpt. He was speaking to Marcel Ngangsop in Yaoundé.
First of all, say that today we have witnessed a new development in our partnership with the European Union. We have signed a convention to support the private sector
up to 6.5 billion CFA to improve on the competitiveness of Cameroon's economy. I want to say that this is a new development that's going to replace a program which is going to end this month of July 2018, but bearing in mind the fact that our development can only take place if the private sector properly plays its role in terms of business creation development, in terms of jobs creation, in terms of wealth creation, because at the end of the day, our aim to become an emerging country by 2035 can only take place if both the public sector as well as the private sector play together their role. Today we have a pledge of 6.5 billion to improve on the competitiveness of our economy. It will be done through technical assistance. It will be done through measures that will improve on our business environment, and it will also be done through improving Cameroon Business Forum activities. These three pillars will help us have 6.5 billion injected in our economy through grants and through proper support of our industrial players, of our business promoters, who need to fight for the conquer of markets, not only nationally, but also at the international level. We know the challenges ahead. Through globalization, we want to see opportunities, but we also want to address threats that could be on the road. And this is the reason why our champions will continue to benefit from the support of the government. They will continue to have the support of our partners, because through their performance we will be able to promote the development of our nation, to have young talented people be part of the mainstream of the development of our economy, and use these players as the engine of our development. It's about inclusive, very sustainable development process, and it can only take place if the engine of our growth is the private sector, and this engine should be supported by the public sector, which is what we are having today as experience, as instrument to really propel, to really continue to support this private sector for the continuous development of our nation.
And ahead of the upcoming presidential election in Cameroon, the National Executive Committee meeting of the Social Democratic Front will be taking place in the Northwest Regional Headquarters of Bamenda tomorrow. Precisely at the Ntarinkwon residence of Nijon Frundi is going to be grouping members of the National Executive Committee of the party, MPs and senators, as well as the NAC members of the Social Democratic Front party. It's going to begin 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. The upcoming election in the country is going to be one of the key issues on the agenda. The meeting is going to be chaired by the chairman of the Social Democratic Front, Nijon Frundi. And that brings us to the end of this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television. Viewers, we thank you so much for joining us. Wishing you a blessed stay in the company of our programs. Have a blessed weekend. Until we meet again. Goodbye.